Awakening is the initial moment when you see the truth about yourself. You see that, hey, this thing that I thought I was is not here. This persona, this separate being, this spiritual being, or whatever I imagine to be, is just a concept, a bunch of concepts about myself. But there is awareness here, and I am that. So awakening is that initial seeing. But embodiment is when this insight begins to penetrate the different aspects of your life. When you are creating, which is a good chunk of our lives, hopefully. When you are in relationship, likely will be also a big chunk of our lives. So is the embodiment what brings the awakening into every situation in your life, so that eventually we will live 24/7 in the awakened state. We could compare the awakening with a small snowball that begins to roll down the slope and begins to grow. And through that process, this rolling, which is the embodiment, eventually it gets everything with it. It becomes like an avalanche that cleans the whole ego stuff and programs. So embodiment is a very, very important part of the process. The awakening is not the end, it's the beginning. And people think that is the end. No, it isn't. It is the beginning. Now that this has been seen, we need to bring it into our own life. We need to bring it into our experience of creativity and doing. We need to bring it into our relating, embodying the awakening. Then I would say that in the third center of consciousness, meaning in the solar plexus, at that level, the awakening is to observe this, observe the persona when the persona interacts, or when the persona shows up, so that you don't identify with the persona, and to train the attention which means to train oneself to look at the persona and to be aware when the persona, is coming forward. The second center is which is about pleasure and enjoyment. At that level, the embodiment is the organism, the mind-body organism needs sensorial experiences. It needs some sex, it needs some enjoyment of the food, otherwise it won't digest well. It needs to have the fun of the senses, enjoying the senses. So we relate to these experiences in the sensory aspect of life as something that the body needs, and it's fine. Give to God what belongs to God, and to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And you just give it to the body, but with a sense of loving parenting, meaning that you don't allow the body to run wild and damage itself. So you are protective towards it, but at the same time, there is all this enjoyment of the senses that is also impersonal. In a way, it's awareness itself that is enjoying the beer. It's awareness itself that is enjoying the sex. And all these things can be experienced from that emptiness. In an expanded awareness, meaning if at the moment you are getting your beer, you take your time, take a moment to become the field and to avoid the contraction of the eye, still you can enjoy immensely the beer, even more than if you are contracted. And then when you are having sex, same thing. It's called in spirituality, it's called spiritualizing the senses. Opening the focus while you are enjoying the senses, and so the senses can be enjoyed from that openness. Also, our beliefs in regard to these things, need to be reconsidered, so that we have a less neurotic relationship with pleasure, because there's usually a lot of neurosis around pleasure. So looking into these beliefs, especially if you have been, subjected in the past to monastic programming in past lives or in the present lifetime, that tends to look at the sensory experience as the enemy, and then modifying those programs is very, very valuable. Like, for example, one instance here that has been interesting is to observe the programs around sexuality that came from monastic participating in monastic tradition, that the losing of the semen or the sexual fluids creates, according to the monastic traditions, create a loss of intuition, a loss of vital energy, and a loss of health. It shortens the lifespan of the organism. You name it. I mean, it's like hell. If you believe in all those ideas and you think that having sex, and losing your precious fluids is you're looking for a hellish experience down the way, right? With all those ideas in the mind. The most reasonable program in regard to this is that the body can handle a certain amount of sexuality without problem, without a loss in intuition, without a loss in vital energy, without a loss in vitality of any kind. And it's just a matter of staying inside a normal range according to your age. If you are 20 years old, probably you can handle much more sex than if you are 60. But still, even at 60 years of age, if you're having a good nutrition and you're taking good care of the body, still you can enjoy a lower frequency, but is without any loss whatsoever. In fact, with with a certain enhancement of life, because life becomes more balanced energetically. So you're using sex as a way of balancing your energy equation, and also because too much energy in the body is not good either, and also to balance your relationship, your couple relationship benefits immensely by keeping a certain harmony at the sexual level, and having the deep connection that happens during orgasm with your partner. So that's also part of the embodiment in the second center. Well, in each one of the centers, in each one of them, we need to free ourselves from neurosis and wrong programs, irrational programs. The embodiment process, is a lifetime project. I would say that the embodiment at the first center, the fundamental thing here is to get out of the self-centered concern about survival. the embodiment is basically that life is taking care of us. Yeah. Not only you, but also your family. That life is in charge of the whole thing. Life is in charge of your business. Life is in charge of your clients. Life is in charge of your children. This trust is this non-dual surrender, not to an external God, but to life. A simple trust that life is in charge. So that's probably the most important aspect. And to surrender our life, meaning that our life, our plans, our goals, meaning that if at some point we need to go, we need to go. I'm ready today, not tomorrow. Not I will be ready after I complete this goal, but I'm ready to go now. Yeah, it's it doesn't mean that it's gonna happen, as long as consciousness wants to express itself through this organism will stay here. But to do not come with the ego concept, the I concept, into the issue of survival, whether it is around money or it is around health, so that we keep the ego away from this issue of survival. Survival now depends on the life, on the universe. Any question in regard to all this? It's natural, because the ego wants success and has a definition of success, and then it thinks, well, if this awakening is so good, then it means I'm going to get what I want. But you may get it. It's fact, it's necessary to have money to pay the bills, so you likely get it. But at this level, the success in embodying the awakening is this childlike trust, same as you had when you were a kid, that you were not doubting that your father was going to provide. But in this case, it's a childlike trust to something impersonal. It's life itself, the same life that animates your own body, which means you, awareness itself. We could say that in spirituality, you say, well, I trust God that He will provide. In non-duality, you say, well, I trust life that will take care of itself. So that you have a less separation with the divine, because there is no separation. So the closer you go to a non-dual narrative of the attitude that you want to attain, the better it is. So it's a childlike trust, yes, as it's put in the Bible, not to an external God, but to life itself, the life that animates the body, the life that is you, the awareness that is ever present.